Meanwhile, following popular outrage over SOPA and PIPA and ACTA and other attempts to strong-arm, control the internet, chill free speech, and shut down websites on a whim, now the globalists are pushing an internet control freak treaty through the United Nations. That's a report by Kurt Nimmo. The International Telecommunication Union, abbreviated to ITU, is a treaty-based organization under the auspices of the United Nations. The ITU is working to globalize the radio spectrum, the latest generation wireless devices, aeronautical, maritime navigation, radio astronomy, satellite-based meteorology, along with the internet, the big one. It is positioning itself to control the next generation networks, the technology that will replace the current free and open internet. Of course, it is a long-standing plan. You've heard Alex talk about it many times over many years, and here it comes. In addition to imposing cybersecurity mandates, it will also outlaw peer-to-peer technologies. And who meets at the Bilderberg meeting for the past several years? None other than the head of cybersecurity, the co-current head of the NSA, General Keith Alexander. He met with all the big tech heads, all the digital agenda people from the EU, the counterparts in the United States, the anti-monopoly, antitrust people. All those people met at Bilderberg, and just so happened to be the year we saw SOPA, PIPA, ACTA, and now this disgusting United Nations treaty. Just something else to keep an eye on, because they're trying to crack down on the web one way or another. Meanwhile, counterterrorism and northern border drug strategy is tied to perimeter security deal. That's from Dana Gabrielle, really one of the only people still writing about the North American Union. We exposed this issue years ago. People were up in arms about it as they tried to put in the super NAFTA highways and all the rest of it, merging our countries between Canada, the U.S., and Mexico. But what's happened now in the years since that's been exposed? Well, we've seen the Fast and Furious thing, attempting to bring greater coordination in between the U.S. and Mexico. Meanwhile, they just passed the Beyond Borders deal under the North American Union agenda between Canada and the United States. The whole thing is outlined to control drugs, and you've got people like Senator Chuck Schumer saying, I can't wait till we stop the flow of drugs on the northern border, because it all comes into New York. They're not going to stop any drugs. It's just another excuse, just like with Fast and Furious, all of it. They guard the opium fields, they ship in the cocaine, they protect the cartels, all of it. This is just a pretext for greater control. The Beyond Borders Pact outlines and allows U.S. Officials to be on the Canadian side of the border, allows Canadian officials to be on the U.S. side of the border, allows so-called security personnel like the TSA and the air marshals to operate across the border, and for the Canadian Mounties to operate on our side of the border. And of course, it's got the giant database where they share all the traveler database, all the travelers' information from Canada with the U.S. It's all in that centralized database, just further integrating our country. More great reporting from Dana Gabrielle. And you should check out the issue too. You'll be amazed at the stuff you find. Mike Adams has a news story, how pasteurized milk is 150 times more contaminated with blood, pus, and feces than fresh milk. And that's right, they do have all those things in that so-called pasteurized milk that you get from stores. This is a response actually to the CDC putting out the stunning propaganda claim that raw dairy milk is, quote, 150 times more dangerous than pasteurized milk. Yeah, right. Actually, it has almost all the essential amino acids. It's got unbroken protein chains, incredibly good for the body as long as the farm is clean. And most of those farms who still do raw milk, although they're afraid of being shut down by these terrible federal regulators, actually keep very clean farms. The whole thing with pasteurization is to allow, as Mike Adams points out in the article, to allow dirty dairy to do what they want, to allow this blood, pus, all this dirt, all this disgusting stuff, even feces, to be in your milk. Then they just heat it up, destroy all the nutritional proteins in there, and so-called kill the dangerous things that might be in the milk. And that's what they push on the public as they arrest Amish people and more. In completely different news, Strauss-Kahn, the former head of the IMF, was arrested by French police for, quote, complicity in pimping after he admits to attending sex parties all over the world. Yes, it is a story basically out of Eyes Wide Shut. Great graphic we got there from the crew. The disgraced former head of the International Monetary Fund, who lost his job amid claims he tried to rape a New York chambermaid, could face jail time over the, quote, sex parties he's admitted to attending around the world. Strauss-Kahn, 62, whose wife Ann Sinclair is standing by him, has made the extraordinary claim he was unaware the women at the orgies were prostitutes because, quote, they were naked at the time. Look, actually, I don't care what DSK does in his private life. Obviously, I'm against raping anyone, including maids, even though those allegations were dropped. What I'm really against is the heads of the IMF raping entire nations, because that's what they do. Unfortunately, when DSK was driven out of office and made into a celebrity scandal, he was replaced by someone at least as wicked, Christine Lagarde. Meanwhile, at the World Bank, the sister twin organization, you got a toss-up between Larry Summers, who wants to pollute the third world as he rapes us economically here at home, or you've got Hillary Clinton, who pushes vaccines and population control in the third world, Hillary Clinton, who was on the board of Walmart, Hillary Clinton, who was in the legal representation for Monsanto. Those are our leaders. That's the real raping going on. Forget about these little scandals. And sure, they do terrible things in their personal lives. Whatever. Other nice news here. A U.S. government program secretly injected people with plutonium as well as uranium, the article goes on to discuss. This came out earlier in February. There's fresh reporting on it today. You've also got Anthony Giucciardi. Should really learn to speak Italian. It's been revealed the U.S. government program secretly injected citizens with plutonium and uranium. They took unwitting subjects in the 1940s, injected them with uranium to test the effects, all while telling them they were being treated for other kinds of things. In one particular case, the first man injected was Eb Cade in early 1945. He was a worker at the Oak Ridge nuclear facility. He later got in a car wreck. He survived and was bedbound with a broken arm and leg. Doctors interviewed him, gave him reassurances, told him how nice everything would be, then ascertained that the 53-year-old, African-American man, I guess he's disposable and disenfranchised and on the fringes, so no one will pay attention if we inject uranium in him. They found he was otherwise healthy, eating well, drinking well, had no other serious illnesses, so they realized they had a healthy subject and juiced him up with 4.7 micrograms of plutonium. Isn't that nice? It's not clear who ordered the injection, but it's clear it wasn't for the health, the article quips. They continued to experiment on him. They pulled 15 teeth. They tested his bone tissue. Never told him what was going on, although he had some idea because, according to the reports, he escaped from the hospital one night. Anyway, he died later, like less than 10 years later, when he was still a, quote, healthy man. They tested plenty of other people. They eventually investigated this in 1974. But this was done first through the Manhattan Project secretly, then later somewhat less secretly through the Atomic Energy Commission, all to find out what the effects would be. They write here in the article, in April of 1947, possibly in response to the Nuremberg trials concerning human experimentation, it was recommended patients be told they'd be injected with, quote, a new substance that, quote, no one knew what it did, but that it would inhibit cancer growth. No one knew what uranium and plutonium would do. Here you go. And the article goes on. They tested lots of other people, never told them, lied to them. They all found out decades later, if at all. Just disgusting. So just remember, your government's out for your own good. They know what's best for your safety. As we turn to the next issue, TSA questioning body scanner opt-outs. Steve Watson writes at INFOWARS.com, refusing to be irradiated, now treated as suspicious behavior. And of course, they've already deployed the, quote, behavior detection officers to watch for nervousness or people who don't like going through security because that's suspicious terrorist activity. Instances of TSA agents demanding to know why travelers are opting out of walking through X-ray firing body scanners and treating the action as suspicious continue to be reported. Here's an account in LouRockwell.com, who's also a great defender of civil liberties and has also been covering the TSA issue for many years. They've got an account from traveler Ryan Alford, who writes how he was asked by an agent, why did you opt out? To which he replied, am I required to answer? The agent mumbled and continued groping and poking, then asked, why are you traveling to? He again answered, am I required to answer? And then, of course, they brought over the supervisors and asked him more questions and then finally let him go. And that's just what you can expect, because they planned all along to make everyone go through the body scanners and to refuse the ability to travel to anyone who didn't submit to the body scanner or to the new Trusted Traveler program, which is guaranteed not to stop any terrorism. Of course, that's already a guarantee of the TSA. They didn't stop the underwear bomber. They've never stopped or caught any terrorist whatsoever. At the very best, they've showed us some probably cooked up images of the 9/11 hijackers well after the fact. Now, of course, they were planning the body scanners well before the underwear bomber incident. I myself was encouraged to go through one before the body scanner thing happened, after Abdul Muttalib, who's now pleaded guilty, is now back in the news to help legitimize the body scanners. And you know what happened when I told them, no, I'm not going through the body scanner, I don't want to be radiated? Well, before I got the pat down, I was told, you read too much. Now they've got the so-called law in Australia, which I'm sure is going to be a model law for the whole world. No scan, no fly, reports the Digital Journal, as Australian airports roll out full body scans. They're telling everyone you will go through the body scanners or you won't fly. And that's really a shame. I really wanted to visit Australia someday. So many interesting landmarks and culture there. But with this so-called law in place, I will never be visiting them. And what's more dangerous anyway, these body scanners that they said wouldn't store images, they said they couldn't look at you, they said perverts wouldn't be looking at it, and pulling out, quote, cute-looking women with, quote, good figures to go through the body scanners again. Well, it turns out they had a study in 1998, yes, 1998, before the 2001 9/11 hijacking incident, the 9/11 attacks, the big event for this whole new society. 1998, government ignored report finding up to 100 cancer deaths from TSA naked body scanners per year. 100 deaths a year statistically from the radiation scanners, because it's just like stuff you dose in the water, whether it's fluoride or whether it's these crazy proposals for lithium. Even a depressed person has to have a very metered out, very careful dosage based on their body weight, on their other conditions, other factors. You can't mass dose people. You got people already at risk, and when they're forced through these body scanners, it triggers something. People get cancer. It's statistically known that if you put everyone through these, all the travelers through these body scanners, you're going to get statistically 100 deaths a year. They knew that in 1998. They've had the other Johns Hopkins studies and everything else showing how dangerous this stuff is. And the TSA, Homeland Security, keeps lying about it. They keep obfuscating. They keep waffling back and forth. No, it's here. It causes deaths. That's less than terrorism causes, if you even believe in that stuff. The body scanners are more dangerous than the terrorists you claim you're going to catch that you don't even catch. Don't try to put me through one. And don't try to stop our travel. We have a right to travel. We have a right to travel. It's constitutional. It's a God-given right. It's a natural right. You can't violate our God-given rights. They're unalienable. They're unalienable. They can't be transferred. We have a natural right. And here we go from 2008 and from 2009, how they were planning to put the body scanners in. Again, all before the stupid underwear bomber incident, which we have a witness coming up. We're going to show you even